podcast. How everybody been doing? We in June now, and summer has somehow crept up. I don't know what happened to the last few months, but it was cold and now it's hot. It is hot. We just had a tornado in Lubbock. Luckily, everybody was safe. Nobody got hurt, but it was just kind of weird, man. Like Texas is, believe it or not, kind of sort of a tornado alley, certain parts of Texas. I know usually places like Oklahoma and Kansas get the tornadoes, but they do happen in Texas, man. And it was kind of a surprise, but like I said, nobody got hurt. Everybody was good. So that's the most important thing. This podcast, man, I want to talk about a couple of topics, some things that are kind of going on in the world and reasons why I do some of the things I do. We human beings, man, we all different, right? We all different. We all have our preferences, and no one person's preference is better than another person's. If you like steak and this person is a vegan, it's just preference. It doesn't, it's not about which one is more healthier or which one is more cheap or whatever. It's about doing, what you enjoy doing. I prefer to eat steak versus I prefer to eat vegetables. I think sometimes in society we tend to become biased towards our own personal beliefs and opinions and values, and we tend to, not all of us, but a lot of people tend to look at others who don't do or don't believe in what they do as, bad or worse or beneath them. And that's not something that we should make a habit of. Everyone has a right to their opinions and beliefs, and you don't have to agree with it, but you should respect it, and maybe even try to understand it. But to just bash somebody who has a different opinion or belief, I don't agree with that. But we'll come back to that later. Let's get into some stuff in New York, man. There was a $66 million food stamp fraud in New York. This lady was she actually worked for the food stamp people, Department of Labor, whatever. And she had some cronies, and she was like basically using fraud to funnel money to them, food stamp money to them, and it didn't really exist, these places. So that was in New York, man, $66 million. And obviously y'all know this lady was living it up, right? $66 million in anything is a lot. And she got caught, and she's more than likely gonna go to jail. So here's my thing. We have systems, right? They're not the best systems, but we have them, and they're designed to help people that are at a disadvantage. When we abuse that, then it makes it that much harder for the system to work. Now, I know people sell food stamps. I know people that get way more food stamps than they probably need. And that's abuse, right? When you take your food stamps and you're selling them, and when you have way more than you need, that's abuse. But $66 million worth of food stamp fraud, that's just ridiculous. That's greed. That is 100% greed. And we wonder why people look at certain people in a certain light is because of things like this. I mean, the lady was black, and whatever stereotypes and things we people have about us, that one right there just didn't make it any better. And she of course, she lived lavishly, bought things that were expensive, and she didn't really need them. And I never understood that. I don't understand the love for materialistic things. Expensive watch, expensive jewelry, expensive car. Now, if you can afford those things, and you enjoy doing it, right? That's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think anything is wrong with that. But when you're using fraud to portray a life that you didn't earn and you're not really entitled to, that's wrong. $66 million in fraud. And I don't know, man. I don't understand her way of thinking. You know, if I don't know if I had $66 million, what I would do. I'm pretty sure I'm not finna buy no extravagant, exquisite things. I've never had that lifestyle. I've never cared about those types of things. A $400,000 car for what? It's got four wheels and it drive forward. Good gas mileage, good enough for me. But she definitely was funding a lavish lifestyle. And I don't know, man. Why do we get caught up in materialistic things? I know people, you know, who really don't have money like that, but if you look at them, they definitely look as if they do. And that's something that I frown upon personally, because you're emulating something that eventually it catches up to you when you continue to pretend like you have something or you are something that you're not. It catches up with you eventually. So that's not really my cup of tea. Fraud, I mean, that's $66 million of fraud. Come on, man, it's ridiculous. But it's reasons like that why our president, he's our president, that's what he is trying to get rid of food stamps and Section 8. I think he's more so trying to get rid of Section 8 than food stamps. Now, me personally, I've given you guys my opinion on those things. People abused them, right? Section 8 was not designed for you to live off of for generations. You shouldn't be able to pass your Section 8 down to your kids, but people do it. And then people think they're entitled to it. So I have all these kids that I can't take care of. You mean to tell me the government ain't gonna help me? Well, they shouldn't. You should take care of your own kids or stop having them. But he's trying to get rid of Section 8. I personally don't have a problem with that. I think it should be a better system, whereas if you are eligible for Section 8, first of all, you shouldn't be able to do drugs. You should get drug tested. If you want Section 8 or you receive government benefits, you should get drug tested. You shouldn't be doing drugs and on government assistance. Random drug tests. You fail a drug test, you off of it permanently. You should have a cycle, right? Like, okay, you're on this government assistance for 18 months, and then a 12-month or 6 to 12-month cool-off period where you have to figure out how to take care of yourself for that time. And if things get tough and you can't, then maybe you reapply and get approved. I think it should be a system like that with a cool-off period. I don't think you should be able to do drugs on government assistance. Over drinking, smoking weed, nah. That's just me. But y'all know how I feel about drugs anyway. And add more accountability to these people that are abusing the system. That way, if you're abusing the system, then you should get exposed and you should get taken off of it. Because there's people that really need the system, use it the right way, who can't get it. And it's like, why are you struggling and you can use the system and do it the right way, and these people just willy-nilly using it and abusing it? It really happens. I know people in real life that's been on Section 8 for generations, and in their mind, they're entitled to it. You cut them off Section 8, they going right to the welfare office or whatever. Why y'all cut me off? I need this. I can't live, yada, yada, yada. But then the next week, they throwing this big old barbecue, throwing this big old get-together, and to me, that's wrong. I don't agree with that. Not a popular opinion, but people, that's how I see it. Communication. One of those things that a lot of people really aren't good at. They think they're good at it, but they're not. Communication is not always verbal, right? Most of it is nonverbal. But communication isn't talking more and listening less. Communication is actually listening more, because you don't learn nothing when you're talking. So if you're communicating with someone, how can you learn anything if you spend the whole time talking? Now, me, personally, I am a texter. I prefer to text over talking on the phone. And there's a reason for that. Usually, I try to communicate as effectively as possible with everyone. I try to keep a smooth tone, not raise my voice, not a lot of vulgarity. Once you start doing all that vulgarity stuff, we can't talk. Because if you can't articulate yourself without excessive cursing, it's going to be difficult for me to have a conversation with you. Now, when you talk on the phone with someone who can't talk, who isn't an effective communicator, And I think about 90% of the people I talk to are not effective communicators. 90 to 95% of the people I talk to. So when you talk to somebody on the phone about a situation and they're constantly interrupting you, right? Every time you talk, then they interrupt you. That tells me that they're not trying to listen. They're just trying to get their point across or wait to get their chance to talk. And once that happens, it's hard for me to communicate with a person. Now, over time, knowing people for so long, I've learned that it's just better to text than to talk on the phone. Because when you text someone, you can actually control the pace of the conversation, right? You can't really get interrupted when you send a text. So that person that doesn't know how to communicate effectively, that wants to interrupt and yell and whatever, I text. So I'll send a text, boom. They read my text, and then they respond. Then I look at their text, I read it, and then I respond. And it's just a back and forth. And it's just easier to control the pace of the conversation. And you can even go back, because some people will be like, well, you said, no, I didn't. Look, read my text. And that's another one I don't like. People that don't really know how to comprehend. You'd be amazed at how many people over the age of 40 do not know how to comprehend. They have no comprehension skills. They look at something and don't even try to understand it. They just look at it and take it for face value. And I get frustrated because I'm very articulate. I know how to talk effectively when I communicate. I do tend to dominate conversations when I talk, but that's because I'm able to express myself in many words. And I try not to do that. I even apologize. Like, man, I'm sorry. I'm taking over this conversation. But usually there are people that just call me just to hear me talk. It's so weird. It's like, really? You just want to hear me talk? And I don't know. But I definitely dominate conversations. And I don't think it's always me. I think it's just people don't have stuff to talk about. Hey, hello, what you doing? Nothing. Oh, what? You could have texted me that. You can text me, hey, what are you doing? And then I can tell you what I'm doing and we go from there. But usually when I talk on the phone, I'm doing all the talking. Like, oh my God, here we go again. And then when I stop talking, when I stop talking, they'll be like, what's wrong? Are you listening to me? Like, yes, I'm listening to you. That's why I'm not talking. Because I'm listening to you. But if they're so used to ineffective communication where one person is yelling and the other person is yelling, when they talk to somebody that actually doesn't interrupt them and listens, they confused. Like, wait a minute, you're not talking, you're not interrupting me, and that is so annoying, y'all. I talk to so many people that do that. They have no idea how to communicate effectively, and I just rather text. I'd rather text. Like, you know what? I'm not finna just text me. They'll call now, send the please text me, but some of them have gotten better at it. Some of them, no matter what you do, they're just gonna be stuck in their ways. They don't have they're too emotionally unstable to have a conversation because they take offense. Once someone gets offended in a conversation, then all the listening shuts down. But you can't mix constructive criticism with offense. And no one, let's be honest, no one wants to hear the truth about themselves. Most people don't want to tell you they're jacked up. They're making bad choices. They don't want to hear that. They want to be coddled. They want someone to say, you're doing everything right in life. You're perfect. Everything's fine. No, keep making bad choices. It'll be okay. And I'm not that person. I'm not. I don't even know how to do that. With my kids, with coworkers, with relatives, with whatever. I don't know how to tell somebody that's doing something stupid they're not doing something stupid. I don't know. And I try to select my words because I know I offend people a lot. I don't think there's been a day of my life on this earth for the last 20 years I haven't talked to somebody and offended them. And it was never intentional. It's not intentional. But if you telling me something that I think doesn't make any sense, then I'm going to say something. And if you continue to do it, at what point do you look in the mirror and say, yeah, maybe I'm the problem? Maybe I'm the problem. If all my relationships have gone bad, all of them have gone bad, maybe I'm the problem. If all my children's other halves are just jacked up and terrible, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm picking the wrong type of people to have children with. That's accountability. That's what I do. And there's nobody on this planet that can criticize me worse than me. There's no one can say something that just hurt my feelings to where I'm just like mad and in my feelings. It's like, okay. Because I'm my own worst critic. So I can take criticism very well. I actually tell people sometimes, like, say something mean about me. Like, say something bad or whatever. And people don't do that. So what I do, I tend to ruffle people's feathers. I'm guilty of this. I actually do it. If someone is being all nice and all like positive and yada yada, I tend to push their buttons to see how they really feel about a certain situation or about me, about whatever. And that is what I remember. And people say, "Oh well, I was just mad. I was angry. I didn't." But see, I don't use that as an excuse. I think when people are mad, that's how whatever they say about you, that's how they really feel. And that's what I hold on to. I don't care about the, "Oh wow, good job, you're awesome," or you. I care about that time you was mad and you said I do the bare minimum, or I ruined your life, or you wish you never met me and stuff like that. That's what I remember. That's what Ziggy Doom remembers. And it's like, oh, okay, so that's what I hold people to, those things, because I don't care about a bunch of sweet nothings. I don't care about all that stuff. Never. Because it's just words. I pay attention to someone's actions. And I think if more people did that, they would be able to assess situations or relationships they have with individuals and make better choices off of that. But when you have a person that doesn't want to be alone, they don't want to be single, they want to be by themselves, they're more than likely going to jump the gun to be with someone. And when you jump the gun, you rush, you usually end up picking the wrong person. That's how that works. Someone that doesn't have anything, that has no idea, that doesn't understand money, don't understand how to spend it, how to invest it, they've never had it. When you give them a lot of money, they're gonna blow it. They're gonna blow it. It's gonna be wasted, guaranteed. You can give them $100,000, and within a month they have nothing to show for it because they don't understand money and they never had anything. So that's what that is. And it's unfortunate because you could really do a lot with $100,000. You could do a lot with $10,000. But my point is, we don't take enough time to learn about someone or something before we invest our time and energy into it or into them. And it's unfortunate, man. The way the world is, man. I mean, with the economy and inflation, cost of living, everything, it's hard. Like kids now in this generation, they can't live on their own. You have to have some sort of nest egg or some kind of really good job or roommates or something to live. So society is already hard, and no one is really trying to educate themselves. I don't really see a lot of people trying to figure out how to better their situation. Some people pray, and that's fine. And some people, it's like, what can I do to better my situation? Well, first of all, start by admitting you have a situation. Let's start there. Admit that you have a situation and you want to be better, right? Now, if you're going to take advice from people on how to do better, I personally would tend to take advice from someone that actually has something going versus someone that just does a lot of talking. I can't. Someone who lives off of someone else is not going to be the best person to get advice on about being independent, right? Like if you've been living off someone else your whole life, someone else is taking care of you, you've lived in someone else's house your whole life or whatever, how are you going to tell somebody about being independent? How? Right? Like, not out here telling anybody anything that I don't have a clue about. If I don't have a clue about it, I don't have a problem with saying I don't know, because it's okay to say I don't know. So if someone asks me a question and I don't know, I'll say I don't know. I'm not finna pretend or insinuate that I know. I'll just straight up say I don't know. If you're better at something than me, you're more than likely going to have more advice about that than me. I'm not the world's greatest cook, you know. So if I'm cooking something and somebody that cooks better than me is like, oh yeah, you putting too much flour or too much water, or I'm going to listen to them. Like, all right, you know, no problem. And I mean, now that's to an extent, right? Nobody finna tell me how to fry chicken, okay? I know how to fry chicken. You can tell me whatever you want. Oh, the buttermilk. I'm gonna fry chicken the way I fry chicken. So, and that's just a preference thing, you know. I like to fry chicken a certain way, and that's cool. But I ain't, even Chef Gordon Ramsay ain't finna tell Ziggy Doom how to fry chicken. I look at him like, all right, I got you, and I'm gonna keep doing it my way. But that's just a little nitpick I have about me. Like I say, y'all, I'm not perfect. I don't always make the right choices and do the right things. I'm a human with flaws, just like everyone else. But I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. I have no problem admitting that I don't know something. You know, I don't have to be the best in the room. I don't have to be the loudest in the room. I don't have to be the smartest in the room. You know, I've actually learned more from being the least smartest in the room. And that's about the company you keep. I don't want to hang with people that are doing the same as me or worse in life. I don't. I want to hang with people that are doing better than me. So when I go to these meetings and there's millionaires at these meetings, I'm looking and I'm listening. I'm looking at what they wear. Listen, y'all, millionaires don't be wearing all this extravagant. They wear some basic stuff, like basic comfortable stuff. I'm looking at what they wear, the conversations they have. Rich people, wealthy people don't have the same conversations as people that aren't wealthy. It is like night and day. They're not talking about the next pair of Jordans and the next Beyonce album to come out. They're not talking about that. They're talking about portfolios and dividends and shares and art, you know. And when I talk to certain people, it's just like night and day. It's like, wow, y'all really aren't, you know, y'all on a certain level. And I guess if they're comfortable with it, okay, cool, you know. But I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want to be on that level. Like we can send funny memes back and forth all day, but is that your life? Is that what you do all day? Just funny pictures or whatever? Is that it? That's not it for me. I can do that in spurts. Like, haha, that's funny, okay. But all day, every day, nah, man. You know. And then when I'm in these rooms with these wealthy people, guess what? I'm not talking. I'm listening, and I'm looking around. I'm observing, like, wow, you know. And that's how you learn. It's a mentality thing too. So that's just me. That's just my take on it. I don't effective communication is listening more, right? We got 2 ears, one mouth. Y'all know that? Ever heard that saying? You got 2 ears, one mouth. That's because listening is twice as important as talking. So I prefer to text because most people I talk to on the phone don't really know how to hold conversations, and they get offended and they interrupt, and I tend to hurt people's feelings. I don't know how, but I do. So just text me. Just text Ziggy Doom. I saw this thing on it was either TikTok and Instagram. It was husband, son, father, wife, mother, daughter. Who comes first? And I mean, there were various answers. You know how you see those dudes? They'll walk up to somebody and they'll ask them a question and then they'll answer it. So husband, mother, husband, father, son, daughter, mother, wife. I'm always gonna put my child first. A lot of people were putting their husband first. You know, I'm putting my child first. I created that child. I brought that child into this world. Well, I didn't bring the child into the world, but I created that life. And I feel that if I create something, I'm gonna be totally accountable to that until they're able to take care of themselves. Now, the wife, when you're married, you know, you become a union, right? You become one. So the wife would be after the child, after my child, and you know, mother is behind my wife. And some people they put their mothers and fathers first. You know, I I don't have anything wrong with that, any issues with that. When it comes to father and son, or mother and daughter, I guess it could go either way. But the ones that, for me, and this is my least favorite, the ones that put the husband or the wife first, I don't personally agree with that. I'm not gonna put a woman that I marry over my children. I had my children first. She came into my life. My mother created me. You know, I created my children, and I'm trying to create a union with my wife. So I'm gonna make sure the kids come first. Now, that doesn't mean the kids are gonna be able to run the household over my wife. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if there's ever a situation where I have to choose, which is highly unlikely, I'm gonna choose my child. I'm gonna choose my child. My child can't fend for themselves. My wife can. My child is still learning. I'm still raising my child. I'm gonna pick my child, and then my wife, and then my mother. And not order of, I don't want to make it seem as if like a ranking or you matter more than my mother type thing. It's just that when I look at obligations, I know I'm obligated to my child. I mean, you're obligated to your wife too, but that's a choice. That's the choice. You chose to, you know, form this union with this person. So that's my take on it. What do you guys think? You know, husband, for the women, it was husband, father, son, and for the men, it was mother, daughter, wife. What is y'all order? And there's no wrong answer. You know, some people, I know they say their husband is the king, and even if those aren't his children, they gotta call him dad, and he commands the house, and they're gonna cater to their husband before they cater to their child. And I mean, to each their own. Like I said, I'm a little different on that. You know, I'll make sure my child is okay, and then I'll tend to my wife. And that's just because, like I said, I created my child, and my wife she is an adult, so she should be able to, you know, if there's a situation, she will be more able to figure it out by herself than my child would. So that's where I'm at with that. And that may not be the most popular opinion, but that's my take on it. Now let's segue into black stereotypes. Speaking of children, black stereotypes. This world sees black people a certain way. We can all agree on that. We're seen a certain way. Now, a black man has different stereotypes than a black woman. That's also true. People see black women, the world see black women in a certain light, the world sees black men in a certain light. And this isn't to take away from anyone else. I'm just talking about black people right here. So what I try to do as a black man is make sure I'm not doing anything that proves a stereotype about black men right. So, like, I'm not out here sagging my pants. I'm not out here, you know, saying the N-word excessively. I'm not out here trying to look flashy and dress fly and all that stuff. I'm not doing any of that. I make sure whenever I'm in public, especially, that I'm seen in a certain light. Now, your opinion of me is your opinion, but you're not going to say about me that I'm doing something that's stereotypical of black people, right? Like, I go to work, I don't curse at work, I don't do a lot of flashy things at work. I go to work, I treat everyone with respect. I don't do a lot of excessive talking. I don't curse at work, because I don't want anyone to ever look at me and say, oh, I see he a typical, black dude, whatever. Now, I do have, multiple kids with multiple women. So that could be seen as a stereotype, right? Oh, look, another black dude with a bunch of kids, with a bunch of women. But here's my thing. If you are helping to take care of the children that you create, right? Then what is the problem? Now, you can go into, well, you're not in a relationship with the mother, you're bringing kids into a broken family. We can say all of these things, right? But when it comes to the aspects of control, the kids are here already. So you're helping take care of what you created. If you're doing that, then how are you contributing to the problem in society? If the kids that you create go into society and make it better, how are you contributing to what's wrong with society? If you're setting an example for your kids to where they can actually, look up to and go out in the world and thrive, how are you part of the problem? And I mean, opinions don't really matter. Someone looking at me on the surface that sees me out in the world and doesn't know me, I can see it, thug because of my hair, right? I don't really smile in public, so I'm angry. You're not gonna know my level of education until you talk to me. So if you're gonna call me a thug and you're gonna call me angry, more than likely you're gonna think I'm not educated, And then if you hear that I have a lot of children, then you're gonna assume I'm a deadbeat. That's just the people that looking at me on the surface that don't know me. It's easy to automatically assume that. Oh, thug. Look at his hair. He got locks. He a thug. He always looking mean, so he probably angry. And I highly doubt he's intelligent. Oh, he got a lot of kids. Oh yeah, he's a deadbeat. That's a typical stereotype for black men. Fit the description. There you go. Police officers say you fit the description. Fit the description of what? And it's unfortunate, but it is one of those things. So me as a black man, I make sure that when I go out into society, I'm not doing anything that would cause society to say, see, usual suspect, right? And that's all I can control. I don't do anything extra, right? What I do is because of who I am, not me pretending to be somebody I am. I don't go to work and then I don't cuss at work and then I go home and I'm just cursing up a storm. F this, F that. No, I don't do that. I don't get in front of a camera and doll myself up. Oh, let me make sure I got this line up and this edge up and this is perfect and that's perfect. And then I'm off the camera behind closed doors. I'm just looking like a ragamuffin. I'm pretty consistent. The clothes I wear is pretty consistent. The things I do is pretty consistent. And I think that's very important, when you are trying to not contribute to a stereotype. And as a black man, I've been black my whole life. I get it. There's definitely stereotypes about us. People will look at us and just assume the worst. Not all people, but there are people, And I've been racially profiled and, many times by police officers. I think police officers are the worst. They pull me over and it's just, oh my God, we need backup. I'm gonna tell y'all a funny story. When I brought my daughter here from the Philippines and I had my car was brand new, like I had bought it brand new. and I was going out of town to visit her sister, to pick up her sister actually, and I didn't have any luggage because I didn't plan on staying. I was just gonna go out of town, drive, pick her sister up, and come back home. And so there was no luggage in the car. And her mother was with me, and they're foreign, they're from the Philippines, and I had got pulled over. My car was brand new, so I didn't have a license, right? I had the temporary tags, and I wasn't staying overnight, so I didn't have any luggage. So here I am, brand new car. It was a new model for that year. Police pulled me over. Wasn't for speeding. It wasn't for erratic driving. They pulled me over because they said I made a lane switch before turning on my turn signal. So I was in the left lane and I went over into the right lane without turning my turn signal on before I did it. That's what they pulled me over for. Now, understand something about cops. They can pull you over for anything. I need y'all to understand that. They can, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's legal, but they can pull you over for anything. They have a checklist of things to say when something happens that will justify their actions. They have an actual list, okay? So that's why they pulled me over, okay? So I already knew what they was on. They pulled me over. Hey, how you doing? License registration, yada yada. Of course, I give them license registration. Everything's legit. Hey, where you going? Oh, I'm going out of town. I'm going to pick up my daughter and bring her back, to New Mexico. I was going to Tennessee. Oh, that's all we headed? Like, you travel heavy? I was like, no, I didn't bring any traveling clothes. Because it's going to be a quick turnaround. I had 2 drivers, so we were just going to drive there and drive back. No spending the night, no nothing. So it was no need for any luggage. So, they go back to the truck. I don't need to tell y'all what race they were. Pretty obvious. We go back to the truck, come back. Hey, y'all, can you step outside the vehicle? Now, I always comply with the law. I got many YouTube videos, y'all. Cops have put me in the back of their car because the dog smelled weed next to my tire. I ain't never smoked weed in my life, but, I just comply. Now, one cop did tell me to sit down on the ground. I told him I'm not doing that. You're not finna humiliate me. And I didn't do nothing but pull into a gas station. I digress. So I get out the car. Now, my daughter, she's fairly young, so it wasn't really anything. She was kind of oblivious. But her mother was kind of panicking because she's new to the country and she sees police officers. So, instantly something's wrong. So they take me out the vehicle and I'm by the truck, and I know the routine, y'all. They think I'm smuggling drugs. Okay, that's what it was. They thought that I was smuggling drugs, and I was using my daughter's mother and my daughter as patsies to justify why I'm going out of town. So this is what they did. They asked my daughter what my birthday was. Now, she was about 6 or 7 at the time, and she didn't know what my birthday was, right? And her mother had no idea about America. She was pretty much brand new here. So she was nervous and they were asking her questions and she was like tensing up and not saying anything. So they took them out of the vehicle because they didn't think that was my daughter. And they didn't think that was my daughter's mother, And they were like, can we look in the trunk? So they looked in the trunk, it was empty. Y'all, my car was brand new. It was empty. So they just, oh yeah, we got him. He got 2 foreigners in the car. They probably mules or they patsies. He don't got no luggage. He ain't got no tags on his car. This is definitely a drug car. When I tell y'all, first of all, they called 2 more trucks. Trucks, not cars, trucks. So it was about 8 police officers out there. And one of them was Hispanic. And, I talked to him. I said, listen, I get it. I know what they think. I know what the first guy that pulled me over, he was convinced I was a drug smuggler, convinced. But there was a Hispanic guy, and he was like, look, we should just go through the process, no big deal. Basically, he was telling me, look, bro, they profiling you because you black, but if you ain't do nothing wrong, you ain't got nothing to worry about, which I didn't. So it started to rain, and my daughter had to use the bathroom, and now I was starting to kind of get agitated, So they went through, y'all, they took a camera and they put it in my gas tank. They took the upholstery out of my truck. They lifted all that up. And they went through my tires. They went through my engine. They did a thorough inspection to find nothing. And I was getting kind of frustrated, but I told myself, I said, you know what? I don't want to give them a reason. My daughter's mother, she was crying. She was crying because she was like, she thought they was going to take me away. She didn't know. And, you know, my daughter was kind of, she had to use the bathroom. I'm like, guys, it's raining. My daughter has to use the bathroom. Can we kind of, you know, expedite this? So long story short, they didn't find nothing. My daughter was able to use the bathroom. I was able to do what I had to do, the end. But my point is, I was stereotyped so hard in that situation to where they were going to find something, even if they didn't. And anything I would have done would have been a reason. That's what they was looking for, a reason. But I didn't give them a reason. So when I go out in public, y'all, I'm not going to give anybody a reason to stereotype me or to bring some kind of shame or discredit to black people, because I'm proud of being black. I don't wake up and wish I was anything else. I'm glad I'm black and educated and reliable. You can think whatever you want to think of me, but that doesn't define me. Your thoughts of me does not define who I am. I know who I am. So, but that's it, man. This one kind of got a little over, but we haven't done the podcast in a while, right? I just want to touch bases with you guys. I'm going to keep doing my podcast. They're not going to stop. And for the people that do actually enjoy them, you know, it's for you guys. And maybe somebody can get some insight. Maybe not. I don't know. But that will do it for this podcast. And until the next YouTube video, be easy.